Hello, and welcome to AA Beyond Belief, the podcast. I'm your host, John S. Today we meet Kayleigh P. from Freethinkers of Alcoholics Anonymous, Ireland. Kayleigh shares her story and talks about starting a group in Ireland for agnostics, atheists, and freethinkers. There's a few interruptions while we're talking as we lose our connection, but that won't cause a problem. Freethinkers of Alcoholics Anonymous, Ireland. Thank you for joining us, Kayleigh. How you doing?
Hi, John. Thanks a million for having me. How are you?
I'm doing excellent, and have been looking forward to talking to you after looking over your website, which I found pretty cool.
Oh, thank you. I'm no expert by any means.
But you did a really good job. And, that's a good idea to do that. We actually did that. I'm from Kansas City, and we actually started a website for our group before we started meeting. And it was really a good thing to do because it's a good way to let people know, hey, there's some of us out here who want to start a secular AA meeting, and people found us.
Yeah, I think that was it. I got a lot of advice, I suppose, from the groups that are already established, that go online first and try and get a community built up there, because you're more likely to get a meeting together once you have a few people of like mind, so it was a great idea. Yeah,
it really is. And that's exactly right too, because people will search for atheist in AA or freethinker in AA or agnostic in AA. That's how they're going to find us, because they're not going to find us really from the regular meeting directories in Alcoholics Anonymous. A lot of people go under the assumption that there is no room for us in AA. So,
well, unfortunately, that does seem to be the case. But luckily, I was able to find it online, so it makes a lot of sense.
The thing I like to always do here is just have a conversation based around someone's story and just kind of take it from there. So would you like to kind of just start by giving us a little bit of your background and when you first started noticing a problem with drinking or drugging and just kind of go through your story a little bit?
Okay, sure. I didn't have a problem with drink for a long time. I wasn't really that interested in it. I would have drank when I was a teenager and all the normal stuff, but I was really averse to drugs. I never wanted to try drugs. I was afraid of them, and I never did. But drinking didn't bother me. I could go months and I'd have a couple of drinks at a party, and I never really enjoyed it. I wasn't one of these people who actually like getting drunk. And it kind of crept up on me out of nowhere, I think. I was married a few years, and it was just one of those things where we'd start having wine at home, and all of a sudden it was a problem. It was really, really random. And it definitely crept up. It was a problem long before I realized it was a problem. And I think I've heard that a lot in the rooms as well. I didn't see it coming. In saying that, addiction is big in my family, not in my immediate family, but it's definitely there. But I was one of these people who never thought it would happen to me. But I suppose I was cross-addicted. I was cross-addicted to alcohol and prescription drugs. And a lot of the reasons why I used the particular drugs and the drink that I used was kind of to sedate myself. So I was definitely attracted to anything that would make me just feel numb. I wasn't one of these stimulant people. I didn't want to be stimulated. I just wanted to switch off, and that just became something that I couldn't do without any day. As soon as I got home, I had to just switch off. I had to literally turn my brain off, and I couldn't manage otherwise. So I think really what I suppose when I was a kid, I got diagnosed with chronic illness, rheumatoid arthritis. It's one of those weird things that you don't think kids get, but unfortunately they do. And that came with physical pain, as you can imagine. Sure. And it was a long time. It was about a decade of treatments not working, or not really getting to any sort of solution so that I could live with. And there were periods where walking was impossible, and there was periods where I just felt very different, because I was in school and kids were playing sports and going out like normal people, and I really did. I was so restricted as a teenager, and I think that definitely affected my self-esteem. But I got to this point where I just decided that I didn't have it anymore. I mean, talk about insanity coming in early, but I decided that all the doctors were wrong and I didn't have it, and I wasn't attending anybody anymore, and I was just going to self-medicate. that's basically how it started. And it started with non-addictive drugs, but it started with this obsession of, as soon as I felt physical pain, I had to take something to get rid of it. And it took a long time, but eventually that did actually come into addictive drugs. And then alcohol was a great help, because that really numbed it. You know, I started to really like the alcohol then. And I mean, it was just, I was trying to keep up with everyone. I was trying to hold down a job, and my husband's from overseas, so we would travel a lot, and I didn't want to hold him back. So I would constantly just try and be okay. And I would never tell anyone I was ill. Most people, apart from my family, didn't know there was anything wrong with me. But that was because I had medicated myself so much that you wouldn't notice, you know.
Sure.
But I was super functional, like crazy functional. It's insane. And I never understood that before I went to AA, that you can be a really functioning addict and for a long time, you know, that it takes a long time. And that was one of the things I was thinking, well, I'm holding down a job and all my bills are paid, and you know, dinner was on the table. So what's really wrong with me having a few drinks, a few sleeping tablets, a few painkillers, you know? And of course that's it. It just, the denial was pretty strong, you know. But yeah, I mean, it did come to a rock bottom, and it was very, very quickly. It was very swift at the end. You know, within a month, I had to give up my job. I was just drinking and drugging all day long, and I wasn't able to function. It just very, very quickly went like that. From functioning full time, 100%, to just not even being able to get up in the morning without having a drink first. That scared the life out of me, but at the same time, I didn't want to stop, you know. But that was the point where I couldn't hide it anymore, you know, because it was so obvious. And my husband was terrified. It was just the two of us, and he didn't know what to do. We were really young, you know, and this was just terrifying. I was just gone. I wasn't even there anymore. Yeah, I was just physically there. I wasn't actually there.
Right.
And you know, blackouts all the time. You know, I can't remember most of that time. I have to depend on his memory to tell me what we were doing, how he was trying to make me come round when I fall over and smash my face in, all that stuff. I'd wake up and go, what the hell happened? And he just couldn't understand why I didn't remember. But genuinely, I just blacked out all the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, eventually it got to the point where he told my parents, and they were shocked. They didn't know anything. I'm really close to them, but they didn't know anything right up until about 3 weeks before I got sober, maybe. And they genuinely didn't. That's how well I hid it, I suppose. But I also had my husband sort of helping me hide it. I guilted him into it for a while. So when they found out that was kind of it, that it went downhill. I kept going for a few weeks, but that was coming to the end then, you know. And I suppose I just woke up one day and I knew, looking at my husband's face, that something had happened the night before.
Wow.
I didn't know what it was, and I was going, oh God, what is this? And apparently my parents had been there and crying and pleading with me, and I don't remember this at all. And I don't know what it was that morning. I was just devastated that they had seen me like that. And I was devastated that, yet again, I had no idea. I couldn't even defend myself because I couldn't remember what had happened. And that everybody was devastated for me and in full of fear, all to do with this. And I just thought, I can't stop. What am I going to do?
Yeah.
And my husband said, look, your mum left this number for a treatment centre. Do you want to ring it? And I just said, yeah, give it to me. And that was it. That was the start of it. That was basically it. I had to stay 9 days off everything before they take me, which was hell. But I did it. I don't know what it was. I just had enough. My husband took time off work and basically babysat me. I was all over the place, coming down off everything. But I got in, and that was the start of it. I was 27 at the time. That was 2014, and so far I haven't looked back. You know, it's really just, everything has changed. I can't even explain what's changed, but everything has changed, you know. And I go to AA regularly. I did aftercare with the treatment centre for 2 years, and obviously I've done AA since I got out of treatment, and sort of built up a fellowship around me. But yeah, that's where I'm at today. You know, my recovery is sort of my first thing in the morning and last thing at night.
How do you identify yourself from your own personal worldview? Is it a free thinker, agnostic, atheist? And how does that, how do you deal with that in AA?
Well, I have only recently been able to put it into words.
Okay.
I think when I went to the treatment center, it was it's a treatment center run by 2 nuns, and
Okay.
it was amazing because there was no sort of higher power God of your understanding pushed on you there. I never felt it there. I only felt it when I went to AA.
Gotcha.
And I was really surprised because I was thinking, okay, this is all right, well, fine, whatever. I've gone to Catholic schools my whole life, you know, I can swallow this and just get on with it, you know. And for a long time I just sort of was a little bit uncomfortable when anyone would share about step 2 or...
We were temporarily disconnected, and Kayleigh was in the middle of talking about how she went to treatment at a treatment center that's run by a couple of nuns, but they were not pushing God at this treatment center. But she did start getting introduced to that in Alcoholics Anonymous. And Kayleigh, you were talking about step 2 and how you were feeling about the religious nature of AA, I think.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I think when I would go to meetings, and I would go to a lot of meetings at the start, I always felt a bit uncomfortable with the God talk and the higher power talk, and particularly if there was a step meeting and it was on maybe step 2 or one of those types of steps. And I just kind of swallowed it because I have spent my life in Catholic schools, you know, in Ireland. That's generally where you end up going, and in convent boarding schools and stuff, where, you know, you say the Lord's Prayer because you know it from when you're born nearly, you know, not because it means anything to you, but it was just always there. So it wasn't completely foreign to me, but there was that feeling of, oh, okay, well, I'll just have to kind of block this part out. It's not for me, you know. But I think where it really became tricky was when I finished aftercare. And once I finished aftercare, they said, okay, look, go get a sponsor now and go through the steps formally with somebody. Because, you know, if you're ever a sponsor down the line, you'll need to know how to bring somebody through the book and blah, blah, blah. And that was basically the instructions I was given. And I said, okay, well, you know, I've been doing this suggested thing so far. I'm going to just keep doing them. So I got a sponsor. I got a woman I had known since I started in AA. And, you know, we worked through the steps and the book. And, you know, I really didn't like the book. I spent my whole time going, well, that contradicts that and that contradicts that. But
there's a lot of contradictions in it.
There's a lot of it. And I was really uncomfortable. And this lady, who's a fantastic member, she would be a big fan of the book. And I just didn't have that enthusiasm. And I did feel like I was arguing with her a lot. And more so I was looking for guidance and clarity. Like, how does this fit for me? Because this is not speaking to me. You may as well be speaking Spanish, you know. And I suppose initially in the beginning of our working through the steps, you know, she would reassure me, look, it'll all become clear later. Don't worry about that now. And okay, that's fine. Let's keep going then. You know, I think by the time I got to step 9 and 10, it was a major issue, and we were both frustrated with each other. You know, it was definitely, she I think felt, oh God, I'm failing this girl because she just doesn't get it. And I was there going, she just thinks I'm defiant, and I really am, and I just don't know how to do this because it doesn't make any sense to me. And it got to the point where, you know, she was asking me, well, why are you here? What are you doing the steps for? And I couldn't answer her, you know, I couldn't answer her clearly. I had to really look at it. I had to tell her that day, look, I hate the big book. And that's such a powerful statement to say to somebody who believes in it. But I really hated it. And I read it cover to cover and I hated it. And I said, I love the steps, the concepts of the steps, but the literal working of them, I cannot do that. And I was called defiant and obstinate and what else, stubborn and self-willed, and told I would drink again. And I told her, well, look, I don't have a higher power either. I may as well tell you that now. I don't believe in any of that. I'm sorry. And I think that was the point where we both looked at each other and said, you know what, I think we may just end this relationship because it's not, you know, we're definitely not speaking the same language. And she was wasting her time, I think, with me. But after that, I went away and I just said to my husband, I don't know what to do. I want to stay sober. I want to be in the program. I want to be in the fellowship because it's been really important to me. But do I just not fit now? I felt like an alien or something. And I just felt really deflated, and I was going, what do I do? You know, how do I make this work for me? And I was looking, you know, Googling things and trying to find out atheists in AA and all this kind of stuff. And of course, as you said before, when you Google it, you do find other groups that have done this way. And your own website, and then AA Agnostica, the two of those in particular, I devoured them. I read every article and listened to every podcast. And my husband came home from work one day, and I'd just done a whole day of doing that, and I was just to the brim of atheist AA, and I was just talking 90 miles an hour, and he said, "Oh, well, at least you're more positive about it today."
You know, you're not alone.
I don't think he had a clue what I was talking about, but I was so excited. And I emailed, I can't even remember which one I emailed. Might have been yourself, and it might have been another site. Is there any in Ireland? You know, who can I talk to in Ireland? And there was none.
Yeah.
So a couple of people said, look, start one yourself, you know. And I thought, oh God, I don't know if I want that, because the controversy, I can already see the faces of the people who will fight me on this.
Really?
And I said, yeah. And I thought about it for a few days, and I said, no, do you know what? I will do it. I'll do it. I'll start online, because somebody has to start it, you know. And that's basically where we're at now. We're at the very fledgling of the Irish one, and I've got a lot of support from the Canadian and American groups, a couple of people in Australia, and some people recently in the UK who've all done this already, who can guide me, you know. And it's just been brilliant. I suppose my main hope is just to build a community online. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, I have the website, but build a community there, and hopefully set up our first meeting within the next year or two, maybe, but definitely the next year. Even if it was a once a month meeting that complemented your other meetings, but it was a Freethinkers meeting where you could maybe meet a sponsor of like mind eventually. That you mightn't have to be left in this position I was, with a sponsor who just isn't for you, you know. And that's basically where we're at now.
Well, I can sure relate to your story and what you're experiencing with having difficulty identifying with the big book. I'm a little bit different, though, because I did go through the big book and play that game for a lot longer than probably I should have. But I think I'm a lot older, too, though, now. But I remember when I very, very first saw that book, I was actually excited about getting the book, because I thought, this is what I need. I need a book that'll show me what to do. But when I first opened it up, I was really kind of disappointed. First of all, that it was so old.
I totally get that.
And then it never really gives you like clear cut, like this is what you do or whatever. It was always these like stories, and it was like mystical in a way. But then I think there was part of me that probably was kind of attracted to that mysticism or something. But I never really bought it, but I just kind of went along. But I can certainly understand how now. I mean, it's kind of sad in a way that we're sticking with that book, because there's a lot of people like you that have come out, they're going to read that book, and it just doesn't speak to you. It doesn't speak to people of this day and age.
Not everybody. I think the thing is, if it works for you, then it's the right thing to do. But it's not a blanket solution for every single person. And I think one of the things that bugs me is, you know, you're not treated like an individual in AA, and you are an individual person. You know, everybody has their own set of beliefs and core values that are ingrained, but addiction aside, they're ingrained in you. And, you know, you can't have a blanket thing that covers everybody, you know, any more than for any other disease. You won't always get medicated the same way. It depends on the person, you know, and while I think that a close friend of mine in AA, who is in his 80s, and he's very religious, you know, he's extremely spiritual, but very open-minded, which is fantastic. But his thing is, you know, you use the program and the book and the steps, and whatever attracts you, you just wear it like a loose garment, you know, and it's kind of the umbrella over which you get well, but you do have to find your own authentic way through the program. And I loved that. I loved the fact that, you know, it's not a do it this way or you will die, because that's the message. That's the message you get here anyway. It is the message I've heard plenty of times, and it's frightening. I mean, it's really frightening. And I think for a newcomer, I was around a little while before I did the steps, so maybe I had a better foundation. But if you were a newcomer and jumping in with a sponsor within, say, a month of coming in, that's a lot to take on. You know, you're already in a mess, and then you're being told, believe this or die. It's too much.
No,
you know?
You're right. It totally is. It's really difficult for a person who's new, who's a non-believer, to look at the language of the book and the steps and somehow interpret them in a way that makes sense to me. I think it was easier for me after being sober for 25 years and then realizing I was a non-believer. It was much easier for me to go ahead and interpret those steps. And also what you were saying too, about there not just being one way, that is very, very true.
Yeah.
There was actually a study done. It was quite a huge study here in the United States about treatment modes. And it's probably the last really big one that they had. It was called Project Match. And the whole idea of this is to find out what mode of treatment is most effective for dealing with alcoholism and drug addiction. And they looked at what they called 12-step facilitation treatment. They looked at cognitive behavioral therapy. And then they looked at, some other thing. I can't remember what it was, some kind of reward type of a treatment. And what they found was there is no one approach. There is no one approach for all people, that you really have to tailor and mix and match for the person. And I think that's true in Alcoholics Anonymous too, that, if there's anything that we have in common that works for us, it's the connection that we have with each other and being able to share experience and help each other. But how we actually experience the steps, the program, or whatever our recovery is really going to be dependent upon our own individual interpretation of it.
Absolutely. I totally agree. And I think that was the big thing with the treatment center I was lucky to go to because I did no research on it. I just thought, okay, these guys will fix me. But I was really lucky because they were a 12-step program, but they also they did CBT training. They were very specific about which counselor you got. I got a youngish guy, and he was cross addicted as well, and he was very matter of fact, and kind of, I don't know. They just kind of seem to try and link you with the one who would most suit you based on your attitude, your personality, I suppose the addictions that you had. And it was a multifaceted approach, definitely. And they did everything, even from just how to look after yourself and eating, right up to continuous recovery, CBT training, long term. It was great. There was a lot in it, and it didn't work for everyone that I was in the treatment center with at the time. We all had different programs we were working on because it was kind of tailored to the person, and I loved that. I thought that for me definitely made a huge difference than if I had just gone to somewhere with group therapy and 50 people in the group every day. I think that wouldn't maybe have had as big an impact on me. Yeah. Or maybe I just wouldn't be as well as I was so soon after. I don't know. I don't really know, but I put a lot down to the fact that the way they actually ran that program. I do agree that it's great to go to a meeting. I actually do love meetings. It doesn't matter how spiritual they become. I love to go and speak to other alcoholics. I love to just be there, and I always hear something in a meeting. It could be from the most religious person who just quotes the big book, but I'll hear one line that I can use, and that's worth it to me, But you do, I end up picking things and then tailoring that to my own recovery, and I think you have to do that. You can't just look at someone and carbon copy what they did. It doesn't work like that.
When I've talked to people in the UK, I was really kind of surprised that the AA meetings there were so conservative that, and I, the way I see AA here in the United States is that, a lot of the people in Alcoholics Anonymous treat AA itself more of a religion. It's not really like AA is religious, but AA itself has kind of become, in other words, it's like you get like really stuck in this one way of having to do things a certain way. Do you feel like it's kind of rigid like that in Ireland, or what's it like?
Well, I think it's probably the same on a smaller scale. We're a smaller country, but right. One of my friends in AA, he's lived in San Francisco for 16 years. He's back here now, and he was saying, America's really free thinking, and America, that it's easy to get a secular meeting in America. You can, and I said, yeah, but you lived in San Francisco, maybe it's more likely in a city, or, maybe not so much if you lived in Minnesota. This is just my interpretation of the States, by the way. I'm not 100% sure. It's very similar here. I live in the middle of the country, and it's we're a very old Catholic country, but I have gone to meetings in Dublin, and there's LGBT meetings and women's meetings and all sorts of groups in Dublin that are I suppose specialists they call them, but I know they don't like that word, but whatever. But that are tailored to people who maybe don't quite get what they need from a traditional meeting. And there's a lot more of an open way of talking about the program you're on or recovery you're on. Now, of course, you still get people who are very religious or very much about the God and the higher power, and that's fine. But in the Midlands, it seems to all be like that.
Okay.
And sort of the further west you go, it seems to be like that. The smaller communities, and you know, I think it's probably similar in the States. It kind of depends where you are.
True. Yeah. Very much like that. That's how it is here. I'm in Kansas City, which is pretty good sized city. But when you get out into the suburban areas, or if you get out into the country and the smaller towns, it gets a little bit more rigid, a little bit more religious, I guess. But here in Kansas City, it's pretty liberal, and we're people pretty open minded. And our meeting was very much accepted when we started out. We didn't really have too much of a problem with people. That's great.
Good stuff. Well, I went to Australia recently. I was in a meeting in this tiny town in the bush, and there was 5 people there, and only one person was Australian. We were all from all over the place, and it was the most secular meeting I ever went to. It was really, really good. And I didn't know that's what it was at the time, but I realized afterwards, actually, that's what these guys are. But it was really cool. You know, the guy from Alabama there, and he was just fantastic. I can't even explain this guy. I wish I could have just bottled him. He was fantastic. But, you know, it was so funny. You know, I would have expected that to be much more rigid, much more big book. And that's how it would be in Ireland. In a smaller meeting, you'd be more likely to be stuck on that program. But it's funny. I just, you know, you never know what you're going to get. I think you just can't assume that anywhere is anywhere. But it is very traditional here. I mean, I did get on to, when I was setting up the website, I wanted to do it the right way. I got onto Intergroup here and the GSO, and you know, I spoke to lovely people and everything, but you know, they were very, very clear that, you know, we'll never list you. And I said, that's okay. I wasn't asking to be listed. I kind of knew that, but they were very clear on the fact that I would not be listed.
Oh my God.
But I just wanted to say, well, am I doing anything wrong here? And they said, no, you can call yourself AA if you want. Okay, I will. But, you know, they were very, very clear that they would not back me at all.
Did they say why?
No, not really. I'm trying to think now. I think I was just kind of taken aback that I didn't ask why. Actually, I should have asked why.
But
I was really taken aback because I hadn't asked to be listed, but that was what they wanted to make sure I knew.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah, so it's crazy. And there was talk as well about the fact that they want to delist the LGBT meeting. That's been huge in Dublin.
Man.
And I did ask why. I did ask why for that, and apparently they don't want to have any specialist meetings listed. So maybe that's the same vein as what they're thinking about for me. But sure, look, so it's funny, you know. It's you talk to lovely, friendly people, but you're put in your place pretty quickly, you know. It's a strange sort of setup.
I should put you in touch with this person I met in Iceland.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, his name's Frosty. And it's kind of funny. He called me. He said, yeah, my name's Frosty. I'm from Iceland. And yes, my name is really Frosty. And I'm really from Iceland. Sure. It's not a prank call.
Sure.
But anyway, he's pretty cool. But he started a meeting in Iceland, in Reykjavik.
I saw that listed, actually. And I thought, this is cool. I love it. Yeah. Yeah.
But he had a hard time with getting his meeting listed. They did not want to freaking do it. And what they were doing with him is they were like just stalling him. You know, they would never give him an answer, you know. And
right. So they wouldn't say no, but they wouldn't actually do anything.
We'll get back to you. And then finally, I think just recently they got him listed now on their site. But I thought that's really weird. I thought, you know, but so yeah, I should connect you with him somehow.
Definitely, I see how he managed it in the end.
Yeah, but
how did he convince them?
They would tell you that.
Yeah, I don't know. It's funny, but that's kind of a battle for another day. At the moment, exactly. I suppose we're just, you know, let's get set up here, and if it takes off, okay, we'll look at that later on. When I have a bit of an army, we might look at that.
There you go. So how are you doing? Are you getting people that are contacting you and joining your community?
Well, yeah, actually, yesterday I got my first email through the website and I was so excited.
Cool.
I mean, you'd think it was my birthday, and this lady, she contacted me, what can I do? I really want to get involved and do something. Mm-hmm. So I've been speaking to her through email, and hopefully we'll meet up. But, you know, if we meet up, that's technically the first meeting as far as I'm concerned.
That's right.
And,
you're absolutely right. It is.
Oh, look, it's exciting. I've got the Facebook pages up, and a few of the members from my home group, I've added them to it. I got great response in my home group on Thursday night.
Good.
They were fantastic. I asked, look, you know, this is what I'm doing. I'm a bit nervous to bring this up, but can we get a vote? Would it be okay to put literature here? Mm-hmm. And it was unanimously supportive. I was really, really chuffed with it. I mean, they're all good people, but I was always a little bit worried that somebody might, have a problem with it, and I didn't want it to be a battle or anything like that. Yeah. So I was really, really pleased with that. And so I've got literature coming, and I mean, this is so exciting. I got to design the literature. I'm very, very design now, it's great. I'm an expert. No, but it's fun. So we've got a small group there, and Twitter is kind of there's more people following on Twitter, but not so much from Ireland, but it's there, and I just have to keep it active, and hopefully with more people coming on,
it will
start to grow.
They will absolutely find you. And a good thing to do is blogging too, because that way it'll put you out there on the internet more and more. And you got some really great stuff on the site, by the way.
Yeah, I think I've stolen most of that.
That's cool.
I've gotten so much inspiration from the other sites, the really established ones like your own, and I'm sharing it. To be honest, what I'm trying to do now is to show other people that this is not a new concept.
That's right. It's not.
And that's the thing, because people kind of look at you with a blank face when you say this. We can't do that. What are you talking about?
Funny?
I'm not starting. Yeah, and I'm not starting this from scratch. There are thousands of people who do it this way.
Yep.
This is just something you haven't heard of in this country yet.
Right.
So that's cool. And I suppose that's what it is. I'm trying to share the evidence, I suppose, that this is this is a community already worldwide, and this is what we're just trying to achieve over here, and kind of get it in the back of people's minds that this exists,
exactly.
And it's successful as well, is the main thing as well, and
it really is. Yeah, it's growing. I think it's probably one area of AA that is actually growing. Where
sure,
all these
I'm
meetings
not surprised. I'm not surprised. I mean, you think about the people coming into AA today, and if they're lucky, they're in their late 20s or early 30s, and that kind of generation, of course, you're going to have people who still have belief, but less and less. And I think a lot more people question it. And you do need to have the extra arm here. There are many ways that you can work a program in AA. And I think that the message that I hated hearing was, this is the only way.
Yeah.
And it's a dangerous message to give out. It's damaging. And I just wonder, how many people. I've seen so many newcomers come in just since I came in, and I've never seen them again. And I just wonder, okay, well, there could be many reasons why they didn't come back. But if that was a particularly God-related meeting, I would run for the hills too. Yeah. I would think, I'm in a cult, I got to get out of here. If you're of that kind of way of thinking, you would just want to run. And you can't blame them.
No.
If and I think as well, we have a responsibility, like every person in AA, to pass the message. And that means you have to pass it in various ways, that there are many ways to do this. I think, if someone was to come to me and ask me to be their sponsor and they only spoke French, it would be irresponsible of me to walk them through the program, because I can't relate. I can't pass a message to somebody who doesn't understand my language. It's the same if you're a big book person and you've someone who's a complete atheist who just can't understand what you're saying. If you don't speak the same language, does that mean this person is doomed? No, it really doesn't. We need to start having an avenue that you can direct these people to continue to get help, and that's step 12.
Yeah. So you're pretty comfortable now with the program for yourself?
I'm definitely more comfortable lately. Yeah, I mean, I'm much more hopeful, and I think. I am still kind of nervous. I'm nervous about the reaction the wider community in Ireland is going to have to this if it does take off. Right. Even just in my local towns, if we just take it to this county. I've seen a lot of controversy about other groups before, and I've seen the passion that goes there. And I'm really not a fighter, but I really want to just keep it really respectful, that this is just another arm. It's not anything. It's not a threat.
Right.
There's nothing, it's just another way for people to get well. And really that's all it is. And I think that message might be difficult to get across to certain groups, but that's, it's bit by bit really, we'll get there.
We were disconnected again, so we're going to pick up where we just left off. And I believe that we were talking about, there was some, starting out in Ireland, understanding that there could be some resistance. And Kayleigh, you're not a fighter. and you just want to show people that, hey, this is just another way of doing it. We're not a threat. And I think that that's a good approach.
Yeah, thank you. I think really my what's in the back of my mind all the time is that, okay, this is new to Ireland, say. I know it's not a new concept, but it's quite foreign to a lot of the traditional meetings here.
Sure.
And for a long time, I might be the only representative of it. I need to make sure that this is, I don't want it to be something that causes arguments. I don't want it me and the group to be a symbol of dissent. You know, I don't want it to be associated with that. So my own behavior in how I promote this is very important to me, because, you know, I suppose I'm not here to convince anybody else God doesn't exist. I'm just here to say, look, there's another way to do it. So that's kind of the responsibility I'm trying to keep in mind the whole time, you know, because I could easily go in with all guns blazing, but I'm not really sure what that would achieve. I think that would do more damage than good, you know. No,
I think you're right. I actually, when we were first starting out here, I thought that I was going to have a fight, but it turned out that everybody here was just loving and accepting, and there was no problem, you know.
That's so good.
Yeah. So I just thought, okay, I just wanted to just be a good AA citizen. So our group got kind of active with just the local AA community and trying to work, you know, with other people in AA. And that was just, I think, the best way to go. And people, anyone who was skeptical of us, I think that skepticism started falling by the wayside after they saw that, you know, we're alcoholics too. And we're just, we're working the program maybe a little bit different than them, but, you know, we're just equal with them as AA goes. Yeah,
and I think after a while, people just start to see the similarities rather than the differences, you know. And that's really reassuring. I'm glad to hear that you had such success that way with it. That's what I'm hoping for.
So I think that you're off to a good start. I think that this will be going to be a lot of fun to watch this unfold over the next few years. And I admire your enthusiasm too. That's what I like to see when these groups are starting off, is how the excitement about it. I got the same sense in Iceland when they were starting their group. They were very excited at getting that thing going.
That's good. That's really good. I have to speak to that Frosty guy.
Yeah.
It sounds good. Yeah. Well, that's fantastic. It is. It's very encouraging. But I mean, I've had a lot of guidance from the established groups already. And I think that's what made me feel like, okay, this is possible. We can do this. You know, I can just look at their own template and what they did and their own experiences, and I can ask for help too if I do get into a difficult situation that I don't know how to manage.
Yeah.
People have already been there, done that, which is great, you know, so it's brilliant.
That's actually pretty interesting, I think, about our communities, because we're so connected online that if you do start having problems, and you there's all kinds of resources that you have of people who've already been through that, and people who know others in all these different countries, that I think that you'll have a lot of support when you get going.
Definitely.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, it is really cool. And I'm really grateful as well that it's today that I'm in AA, not 50 years ago, because how much harder would it have been? You know, I think the online community has opened up so much more, that I would have never have known that there was secular meetings anywhere else, you know, 50 years ago. And now it's just so easy. I put a question up on one of the Facebook pages, and literally 10 minutes later, 3 or 4 people have answered it for me.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. You know, people have already been there, had the issue and solved it. Fantastic.
Yep.
You just can't get that kind of thing anywhere else.
Yeah. Well, Kayleigh, I think that this has been a nice conversation. I thank you very much for agreeing to do this.
Thanks so much for asking me, John. It's been brilliant.
Oh, it's been fun. Yeah. Thank you very much. And have a good day out there. We'll be posting this. I have it scheduled for March the 15th. I give myself plenty of time now, which is kind of nice.
That's right, just in time for Paddy's Day.
That's right. It'll be St. Patrick's Day over here. So that'll be appropriate.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll grab all the new alcoholics before.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thanks so much, John.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, that's it for another episode of AA Beyond Belief, the podcast. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll be back soon enough with another episode for your listening pleasure. Until then, don't drink, go to meetings, and help others.